The Sony FX30 is a fantastic budget cinema camera. I previously made a best accessories for the Sony FX30 video, and in that video I mentioned glass, but it was nothing but full frame glass. So in this video we're going over nothing but APS-C glass for the FX30. For the lenses, I have some Sony lenses, 2 Tamron lenses, and 2 Sigma lenses, but I'm actually going to recommend 3 Sigma lenses. So starting off with the Sony glass. First up, we have the Sony 11mm 1.8. This is about a 16mm full frame equivalent, so this is going to be able to capture wide angle images with a fast aperture of 1.8. The close minimum focusing distance allows you to get some background blur as well. I have a whole video going over the 11mm 1.8, but if you're looking for a fast wide angle prime that is incredibly small and compact, check out the 11mm 1.8 from Sony. I also have a video going over the 15mm Sony lens, which is a good lens, but I'm actually going to recommend a different lens in that same about millimeter category. And I will be going over that one a little bit later. My next lens for the FX30 is the slowest lens of all of them, and it is the 18-105 f4 lens. And the reason I'm including this in my review is it has an internally zooming lens that is also a power zoom. So not only can you use the zoom rocker on the side of the lens here, you can use the zoom rocker on the front of the camera. And since this is an internally zooming lens, it's not going to move at all. One thing I would note here is if you're going to be using autofocus while you're using the zoom rocker here, I would set your autofocus sensitivity speeds a little bit higher than you're used to. Or your subject shift sensitivity a little lower than you're used to, so you can actually get the best autofocus results out of this lens. My next lens for the Sony FX30 is the Tamron 11-20. This is a great about 16 to 30mm full frame equivalent. It is a little expensive, coming in at $830. However, if you're looking for a fast wide angle zoom with good autofocus, this is a fantastic lens. This is a fantastic walking around and vlogging lens as well. I filmed my previous DJI Mavic 3 Pro video with this lens, so if you're looking for more test footage, check that video out. That entire video was filmed with the Tamron 11-20 and the Sony FX30. Being able to go from 11 to 20 millimeters allows you to get more of the scene, but also punch in to get some details as well. My next Tamron lens is my favorite zoom lens for the FX30. For the price, I really don't think you can get a better lens than the Tamron 17-70 2.8. This is about a 24-105 full frame equivalent, so I absolutely love that lens. However, that lens is over $1,000. And if you want a APS-C version of that, this is a fantastic buy, coming in at about $700. So I have loved using this on my FX30. I'm shooting a skateboarding mini doc right now, and I've almost used this lens entirely for that so far. Being a 2.8 lens, you can also open this up and get some better low light performance out of the FX30. However, one thing I've learned about both of these Tamron lenses, the lower light, if you're opening it up, it will struggle to nail autofocus. So one thing I've been doing is using manual focus when using this lens in low light opened up. However, one thing to note about both of these lenses, I've learned that if you're manually focusing them and using active stabilization on the FX30, you'll almost get like a jumping frame in between your manual focus points. If you plan on using these lenses for a lot of manual focusing, I would recommend not using active stabilization because you could get frames in between your video that actually makes your frames look like they're jumping. So if you're buying the Tamron lenses and manually focusing, I would not use active stabilization at the current time with the FX30. I would use standard stabilization. I've had much less of a problem with this in standard stabilization, but maybe this can be fixed with a firmware update. This seems like it might be zooming in between a focal length, and the FX30 doesn't know how to calculate that, so it just has a weird frame jump. All that being said, I still found myself using the Tamron 17-70 and either having it in autofocus or manual focus with standard stabilization. And this has been a fantastic lens, even given that drawback. And no, this video is not sponsored by Tamron or Sigma or Sony. B&H actually sent me all of these lenses to review so I could make this video. So huge shout out to B&H. My next lens for the Sony FX30 is the Sigma 16mm, and this is about a 24mm full frame equivalent. And this lens is the first lens I ever bought when I bought my original Sony A6400 APS-C camera back in the day, and this lens practically lived on the camera. This lens is about $600 and it is a fantastic performer. The autofocus, the build quality, it is a little bit large when you're comparing it to other Sony lenses. This is a more direct comparison to the Sony 15mm, which is about the same size as the 11mm, and you can see this is significantly larger. However, the autofocus and the price point of the Sigma is absolutely fantastic. 24mm is a fantastic versatile lens, and being 1.4, you're going to get great low light performance. You can open this up and the autofocus still performs very well. If I had to put a lens between these two Sigma lenses, it would definitely be the Sigma 23mm prime. That is an f1.4 lens, and it is a 35mm full frame equivalent. I had that lens back in the day with my A6400 and my 16mm Sigma lens. These two lenses are very fast, and the autofocus is also very good in low light as well. However, I went with, for B&H, I wanted to get the 56mm Sigma. This lens is newer than the other two Sigma primes, and the autofocus is also phenomenal on this one as well. This 56mm is a f1.4, and it's about an 84 or 85mm full frame equivalent. This lens runs about $450, $460, and if you want to isolate your subject against a nice blurry background, this lens is fantastic for doing that. And this lens fits right in with the other Sigma lenses. However, it is way smaller. It is almost closer to the size of the new Sony primes. So if you want to have a very lightweight kit, the 23mm and the 56mm are going to be very easy to put into your bag. And when you put this on your camera, it's almost like it's not even there. Also, this comes in at about half the price of the full frame lenses as well. And that really is the theme behind my favorite APS-C lenses for the Sony FX30. Not only are they smaller and lighter than the full frame equivalents, they're also much less expensive. However, you won't be able to use these on full frame sensors if you were to upgrade in the future. If you're looking to get the best bang for your buck zoom lenses, I would go with the Tamron 17-70 and 11-20. If you're looking to get the best bang for your buck primes, I would go with the Sigma primes. And if you're looking for that power zoom, but it's a little bit slower, I would go with the Sony 18-105. Or if you just want the widest lens you can possibly get, the 11mm 1.8 from Sony is a fantastic buy as well. You really can't go wrong with any of these lenses. It just comes down to how you want to use them. If I could hypothetically send you any two of these lenses, which ones would you choose and why? Let me know in the comments down below. I have a lot more FX30 content coming soon, so if you want to see more of that, be sure to subscribe to find your way back in the future. Thank you guys for sticking around to the end, and I'll see you in the next one.